So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the industry standard blueprint for data science. It's a framework that's been guiding successful projects for decades, and it's called CRISP-DM. Honestly, you can think of it as the secret sauce behind projects that actually work. But first, let's start with a situation you've probably seen, or at least heard about. A company pours a ton of money into a big data science project. They hire super smart people, they get all the data, and then crickets. The project just kind of fizzles out, it misses the mark, or it just completely fails to solve the actual business problem. Why does this happen so often? Well, a lot of the time, the answer is pretty simple. They didn't have a plan. And that is exactly where CRISP-DM comes in. It stands for Cross-Industry Standard Process for Data Mining. Just think of it like a reliable map, created way back in 1999 to guide you from a vague idea all the way to a valuable, working solution. Okay, so let's dive into this 6-phase blueprint and see how it takes us from a simple business question to a fully deployed solution. Here they are, the 6 phases. You've got business understanding, then data understanding, data preparation, then you get into modeling, evaluation, and finally, deployment. Now don't worry, we're going to break each one down, but just seeing the whole cycle like this gives you a great mental map of the entire journey. But before we dig into the phases, you have to read this quote from the original CRISP-DM guide. It just hits the nail on the head. It's all about that very first step, business understanding. And it perfectly explains why this framework is so powerful. It forces you to ask the right questions before you waste any time looking for answers. That quote is all about starting off on the right foot. So let's group these first 3 phases together because they are the absolute foundation of any project. If you get this part wrong, everything you try to build on top of it is just going to crumble. Phase 1 is all about the why. Before you even think about touching a single piece of data, you have to get what the business goal is. And it's not enough to hear, we want to reduce customer churn. You have to translate that into a super specific technical goal. Like, okay, we need to predict which customers are most likely to leave in the next 30 days. See the difference? All right, next up, you get your hands dirty with the raw materials. Phase 2, data understanding, is where you just explore what you've got. It's like a chef looking at all their ingredients. What's available? Is it any good? Is anything missing? Then you hit phase 3, data preparation, which is the real kitchen prep work, the cleaning, the chopping, the formatting, to create that perfect data set your model is going to need. Now, this is probably the biggest shocker for people who are new to data science. You'd think most of the time is spent doing all the cool fancy modeling, right? But look at this. A massive chunk of project time, we're talking over 60%, is spent just on data preparation. The actual modeling part, it's often a tiny slice of the pie in comparison. Okay, so once that foundational work is solid, and yeah, it's a lot of work, we can finally move on to the build phases. This is the part that most people actually think of when they hear data science. So in the modeling phase, you get to play with the cool toys. You start applying different algorithms to your nice, clean data. Maybe you try a decision tree, maybe a neural network, a regression model. The whole point is to find the technique that's best at finding the patterns that'll help you solve that business problem. This next phase, evaluation, it's everything. I mean, you could build a model that's 99% accurate on paper, but you have to ask, so what? The real question is, does this model actually solve the business problem we defined way, way back in phase 1? Because a technically perfect model that doesn't meet the original goal is, frankly, useless. And finally, deployment. A brilliant model just sitting on a data scientist's laptop isn't creating any value for anyone. This phase is all about putting your solution to work in the real world. That could be something as simple as a final report, or it could be as complex as plugging your model into a live system that's making decisions in real time. So that's the whole process. But if you walk away thinking this is just a simple checklist, you're going to miss the real magic. Its true power is something much more subtle. See, the most important part of the official CRISP-DM diagram isn't actually the 6 boxes. It's the arrows that connect them. And if you look closely, you'll see they don't just go forward. They go backward too. The whole thing is designed to be a cycle. And this is what makes it so different from a rigid, linear process, something we call a waterfall model. In waterfall, you finish a step, you get it signed off, and you never look back. CRISP-DM is the complete opposite. It's built on feedback loops. What you learn in a later phase can, and absolutely should, send you back to an earlier one. For instance, maybe you're in the middle of modeling and you realize, whoa, this data is just not working for this algorithm. No big deal. That just sends you right back to data preparation to fix it. Or even bigger, maybe during evaluation you realize the model you built doesn't actually help the sales team. Well, that might send you all the way back to phase 1, to business understanding, to redefine the entire problem. And that's not a failure, it's a feature. It's how the process is supposed to work. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. Why on earth is a framework from 1999 still one of the most popular, most used models in data science today? Yeah, 1999. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This framework was developed before a lot of the core technology we use every single day even existed, and yet here it is, still going strong. The reason why is actually pretty simple, and I think it's kind of profound. While the specific tools, the algorithms, and the tech change at lightning speed, the fundamental principles of running a successful project, they really don't. When you boil it all down, CrispDM's lasting value isn't about telling you which tool to use. It's about embedding these timeless principles into how you work. Always, always start with the business goal. Always take the time to really understand your data, and always be ready to iterate and refine your approach based on what you're learning. And that leaves us with one final thought. In an age where automated AI is doing more and more of the technical heavy lifting, does a framework like this become less important or maybe more important? Could it be that the very first step, that uniquely human skill of deeply understanding the why, is actually becoming the most critical part of the entire process? Something to think about.